Hello everyone, my name is Connie. I'm an artist and director in the games industry, and I've decided to start a new YouTube series where I talk about experiences from my own life and just some stories and experiences from my career and things like this, and hopefully get some value out of that. I've always wanted to do this type of story time videos and stuff like that, but I'm not a very good speaker, so I'll be reading through scripts that I've written beforehand, and hopefully in the future won't be needing a script and I can just talk to you normally, but for now I'm gonna stick to scripts. So I'll be improving throughout this for sure. So today I'd like to talk to you about external validation. The biggest thing I regretted in my art career is the extent I've let the external world dictate what I should be making creatively. I was never really sure what I should be making, so naturally I looked to other people to see what they were doing, to try and understand what others want to consume. After all, I want to be doing this as my career, and I want others to like what I make. In itself, it's not a bad thing to look at what's being consumed when trying to make a career for yourself. The stuff is supposed to make you a living, but when you're trying to find out what you enjoy making in order so that you get good enough to even be able to do so, mixing this with business is a confusing, misleading, and just a dangerous venture. So to give you some context, let me tell you a story. I've been drawing all throughout my life. I believe I started to understand that art was playing a main role in my life when I was about 13 years old. At the time, kids at my school had just discovered anime, the more edgy kind. We all had seen shows like Pokemon before, but we had no idea that was anime at the time. That stuff was kid stuff. These new edgy shows, however, were something entirely different. Intense battles, struggling teenage heroes, cute girls, edgy clothing and weapons, all the kinds of imagery a young teenager like myself would latch onto. Art was comforting to me. My sketchbooks became like a room of which I could retreat to have a moment for myself. In those sketchbooks, I drew a lot of anime heroes, mostly characters I made up. It was rare that I traced or redrew things from other shows. It was more exciting to think things up on my own, and I became quite good at it. There was one kid at my school that was way more popular than other kids. Let's call him Ben. Ben seemed to always be dating a new girl, which was equally as popular as himself, and everyone wanted to be friends with him. Everything Ben did, others seemed to think was cool. He liked taking credit for being the first one to discover anything new, or being the first kid to do something. Drawing anime was one of those things. All the kids were blown away by his drawings and came to him for advice, because he was, quote, the guy who found anime, unquote. Ben would also look over other kids' shoulders to see what they were drawing, like a mentor looking over his students. I was, in comparison to Ben's popularity, an outsider and quite insignificant. I was also overweight, which made me a target for bullying, and most of the time I was overshadowed by other people. Needless to say, I didn't think very highly of myself. But drawing was my domain. It was the one thing I was actually good at. If this kid saw what I was doing, surely he would be impressed, I thought. If I had his validation, what I made would matter. I would matter. All I had to do was to draw the type of stuff he liked, and if I get a little bit better than him, he won't be able to deny it. That was my plan. Because these kids were pretty much just tracing and copying, which by the way is not a bad thing, but I thought so at the time. It didn't take a long time before I was getting better than them at drawing. One day in art class, as the kids and Ben was walking around, looking over shoulders, seeing what everyone else was drawing, one of the kids looked over at my drawing and said out loud, "Man, I think Connie is the best artist in our class." Ben straightened his back and looked over. I felt triumphant. I had finally accomplished my goal. Except I had not. Ben didn't give me any validation. He exclaimed to the class, "Ha! Drawing is pretty lame. Who cares?" After that day, he stopped drawing. He moved on to the next thing to be best at, which was playing guitar. Of course, I also picked up guitar and music for a while. I enjoyed it, but eventually I put it down. But I didn't put down art. I kept on drawing. But this mental pattern for validation from other people persisted. like a shackle and chain dragging on the ground behind me, halting my progression and constantly distracting me. Every time I got nervous because people didn't take to something I made, I steered in a different direction, hoping I would arrive on a path filled with people validating what I'm doing. It took me a long time before I had understood that I had adopted a very toxic mindset. So let's forward to present day. I still struggle with these external validation things all the time, but one thing has changed, and that is I try my best to make things that I enjoy making, without looking to see if people will take to it beforehand. I need to make sure I enjoy it first, because if I don't enjoy it, there's no chance others will. I believe that this has taken off some weight of those chains, and I still have a long way to go, but I think I'm going in the right direction. There is of course so much more to cover about this topic, but that is all we have time for today. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I hope you return for another video later down the line. Make sure you're subscribed and have notification turned on to see the next video when it comes out. Liking the video also really supports the channel, so thank you for doing that. Take care of yourself and create things you enjoy, and I will see you again soon.